first time ever.
Warning active terror.
We are ready to engage with a two-state solution.
Some of his most senior cabinet members
The drivers of a new economic age.
Open source intelligence. Genuine air operations look clean and routine on the surface. Flight plans, filed clearances granted, runways open. But behind every safe takeoff and landing sits a fragile information flow. The NOTAM system, small time bound messages, notices to air missions, deliver the situational picture pilots and operators rely on. When NOTAMs work, flights proceed. When they fail, delays, cascades, exercises are disrupted and strategic signaling can be misunderstood. So today we unpack how NOTAMs matter beyond aviations as tools of operational control, crisis management and strategic messaging. And thanks to one of our subscribers who inspired me to make video on this. Now what a NOTAM is, a quick understanding. Notice to air missions is a time sensitive advisory about hazards, airspace restrictions, changes to navigation aids, runways status or temporary regulations. They come in categories: domestic or distant, FDC, regulatory, international, military and civil, and in formats used by pilots and operations centers globally. So in short, NOTAMs are the kind of bloodstream of safe adaptive air operations. Now, the dependence on NOTAMs is not theoretical. In early 2025, the primary United States NOTAM or pilot messaging system suffered an outage that produced thousands of delays and hundreds of cancellations across the United States, prompting a high-level modernization push by the Department of Transportation and FAA. Flight Aware data from that period recorded several thousand delays on the first days of the outage and hundreds of cancellations. A live reminder of how a single information failure ripples across a national aviation system. So regionally, NOTAMs routinely underpin national security activities. India has been issuing operational NOTAMs for missile tests and major air exercises, including a recent Bay of Bengal NOTAM for missile test windows and local NOTAMs for Indian Air Force exercises on borders. These are routine from a safety angle but strategic in signal. They show where and when a state will project force or test the capabilities. So at the same time, heightened military activity in the Indo-Pacific, including carrier flight operations and high sortie rates by China's lining near Okinawa, creates intense NOTAM and airspace management. It demands for neighboring states and civil aviation authorities, increasing the risk of misreads and dangerous close encounters. So recent reports of radar lock incidents during carrier drills illustrate how busy military flight envelopes interact with civilian traffic and the NOTAM environment. Now, how NOTAMs function as strategic instruments. NOTAMs are more than safety bulletins. They are low-cost mechanism states used to reserve or close airspace for missile tests or military exercises, de facto signaling of capability. Second, they implement temporary flight restrictions, TFRs, for high profile visits, that's head of the state delegation, that shapes access and optics. Then communicate the timing and scope of exercises that other states monitor as indicators of intent or readiness. Example, a wide area NOTAM for long range tests signals strategic reach because NOTAMs are public and machine readable, and adversaries and partners alike ingest them as part of open source intelligence, and that's OSINT. Now, a NOTAM that closes a large swath of question for a week can be read as both safety and a statement of capability. That dual use gives NOTAMs geopolitical value for beyond their immediate safety role. Let's see the operational risks. First, system fragility and cascading delays. In the February 2025 US outage, FlightAware reported thousands of delays and hundreds of cancellations on affected days, showing that NOTAM failures translate directly into economic and logistical costs for airlines and passengers. Restoring services cut the disruptions dramatically, underscoring dependence on continuous availability. Second, civil military friction. When militaries conduct high tempo carrier or fighter operations, civil air traffic must be rerouted or warned via NOTAMs and other advisories. Now, the recent landing carrier drills saw 100 sorties near Okinawa and led to Japan scrambling jets and issuing diplomatic protests after radar lock incidents, a reminder that high intensity military NOTAM environments raise the risk of dangerous intercepts. Then third, geographic scale of strategic NOTAMs. India's Bay of Bengal missile test NOTAMs have covered very large surface areas. Reports cited lengths of the restricted zone in the thousands of kilometers. Now, this affects long-range civil route planning and regional overflight patterns. So, large NOTAM footprints force nearby states and carriers to replan with fuel, time, and slot implications. Then, fourth, open source intelligence and signaling. Public NOTAM notices are mined by analysts and media to infer data ranges and platforms effectively, acting as transparent windows into a state operational calendar. Now, that transparency is useful for safety but also provides strategic cues to third parties. Now, let's look at few cases. First, NOTAM outage and systemic response when the US pilot messaging system went down and immediate effect was operational chaos. Airlines delayed or cancelled flights, contingency systems were used, and DOT or FAA pushed an accelerated modernization plan. The political fallout led to increased funding talks and commitments to replace the legacy systems, a concrete policy outcome resulting from a NOTAM failure. Then, second case, large area missile test NOTAMs. India's NOTAM for a Bay of Bengal window, early December, reserved extensive overwater airspace for tests. A standard national safety measure, but one that draws international attention because of test ranges and strategic implications of long-range missile testing. So, cancellation or alteration of such NOTAMs as happened on some dates also signals operational flexibility and decision calculus. Then the third case, the military drills and close encounters. Chinese carrier flight ops in the East China Sea generated dense military air activity and diplomatic friction after radar lock allegations against Japanese fighters. So, high sortie numbers and carrier based operations create concentrated NOTAM activity and increase the chance of miscommunication between civil and military operators, a tangible safety and strategic risk. Now, what are the strategic implications? The NOTAM reliability is equals to national resilience. States whose air safety information systems are modern and redundant are naturally more resilient in crisis. Outages creates not only delays but code confidence and impose economic losses. Second, NOTAMs as low visibility signaling, because NOTAMs are operationally necessary and publicly visible. They are efficient signaling tool. A state can demonstrate reach, long range test, NOTAM. Intent remains reserved, airspace over a contested area or capability carrier exercise windows without formal diplomatic messaging. Then third, civil aviation is a risk multiplier. Dense civil traffic in regions of strategic interest, example Indo-Pacific air routes near Taiwan or the South China Sea, means NOTAMs and military sorties interact more often, raising the probability of dangerous encounters that have political consequences. Then open source intelligence risk. The public nature of NOTAMs means adversaries can derive timelines, operational security. Trade-offs must be managed, especially for exercises that want tactical surprise. So let's see what can be the recommendations which I felt were necessary and I incorporated in this video for governments and operators. Modernize and decentralized NOTAM infrastructure. Invest in redundancy, faster dissemination and automated failover to avoid single points of failure. The US FAA events, they show this is urgent. Then civil military coordination cells. Establish joint aviation coordination units in regions with frequent military activity, like in Indo-Pacific, Eastern Europe, to synchronize NOTAMs, real-time advisories and contingency routing. Then smart signaling. Use layered communications. NOTAMs for safety plus calibrated diplomatic channels for signaling intent to avoid accidental escalation from misinterpreted safety notices. Then OPSEC for sensitive activities where tactical surprise is required. Consider limited scope NOTAMs pre-coordination with overflown states or classified notices to ATC that preserve safety without full public disclosure of specifics. Then industry readiness and contingency planning. Airlines and ANSPs, like air navigation service providers, they must run outage drills, coordinate recovery procedures and maintain clear passenger facing protocols to reduce economic and reputational costs. So NOTAMs are short texts, but they carry long shadows. From grounding flights to signaling strategic intent, they sit at the intersection of safety, sovereignty and strategy. Strengthening NOTAM systems, improving civil military coordination and treating these notices as instruments of both safety and statecraft will reduce risk and sharpen policy choices. So in modern airspace, information availability is itself an element of power, and NOTAMs are where that power is often first exercised. So that's all from my side in this video about NOTAMs. Thanks once again to our subscriber who inspired us to make a video on NOTAM, and do share what you would like to hear more either on this subject or in any other subject. I'll see you in the next video. Jai Hind and Jai Bharat.